Hi, hey, and all those other greetings, Fit Adventurers. I'm Jake Spence, welcoming you guys back to my gaming and unboxing channel, where today I'm excited to introduce you guys to a quick series of unboxings, being a three-parter about the Sonic movie franchise. Oh my gosh, I'm so freaking excited about this because I never actually talked about the first Sonic movie due to the fact that we didn't get a lot of merchandise on that movie, and by the time I got the very little stuff that was there, I just never made an unboxing video for any of it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's just kind of how it played out. Fortunately, though, we have quite a bit to talk about here, and so much that I actually have almost too many things to figure out what to do and how to spread this out. Technically, this video series can also be done with a different set. However, I want to do it with this set because these plush are bigger in, well, a more physical sense, but also just in a more general sense, and also I already have these three, so I figured that this would be the better way of doing this. Now, of course, I'm going to do my usual fanfare and all that. So here's how this is going to work. The first video is going to go over the Sonic plush. In this video, we're going to go over many different things, mainly pertaining to the first Sonic movie and the creation of that. The second video is going to be about Tails. We're pretty much going to go over a little bit more of the movie itself and Tails, in and of itself, his part of it. The third one is going to be of Knuckles. For Knuckles' part, we're actually going to be diving more so into the Sonic movie 2, and yes, this is going to end up containing spoilers, which I do apologize for. Before I get too ahead of myself and start giving a bunch of information about all of this stuff, let's do my usual fanfare and call out the first plush. Fortunately, I have the good old ring to be able to throw to Portal Sonic in. Alright, here goes. Here he is, portaling in from the sky, the good version of movie Sonic, and oh boy, do we need to preference this now for multiple reasons. Before we get into that, because oh boy, it's interesting, let's go over the fact of what actually happened when the Sonic movie was introduced. So, first trailer comes out, and for the most part, everybody's excited about this movie, because, well, even though video game movies are usually not that great, Sonic had been in kind of a rut, and there's this idea of, hey, look, new thing, maybe we can be excited about something to tide us over, and it'll be super cool. So first trailer comes out, and first reaction, that's not Sonic. Yeah, if you have somehow been blessed to never see this design, it's rough. Now listen, I don't want to be a jerk and say that they did horrible or that it was awful or anything like that. I always say art is subjective. However, trying to say that this was Sonic just doesn't work at all. This was essentially its own beast in and of itself, with multiple different mistakes. Now, I say mistakes as there was a lot that was wrong with it just from a design point from opinion, as his eyes were just a little bit weird, he had human teeth, his proportions looked really weird, it kind of looked like a small child in a mascot costume, and it just looked very uncomfortable. It didn't look proportionally right. Very, like, flimsy looking. Not great. But even with all of that, there were certain mistakes, like his chest fur, or this chest circle. I don't really know what to call it. Chest skin? I don't know. But this part of him was not only fur, which is fine, but it was a pure white. This was even weirder considering the fact that the rest of the skin tones on him were completely tan. So this thing ended up being its own ridiculous amalgamation of what was supposed to be Sonic, but not really. This spread like wildfire as the internet completely hated it. For me personally, I also felt the same. As a huge Sonic fan, which, as you can see looking above me, I am a massive Sonic fan, I didn't even want to see this movie. It looked fine comedically, however, that design in and of itself, it just was so creepy that, to me personally, it didn't seem worth it, and it seemed way too painful. I had already been burned from many different games, and I was already questioning whether I still wanted to be a Sonic fan up to this point with stuff like Sonic Forces, so I just decided not to watch it at all. As the weeks went on, the internet just completely ranted and raved about this and made a ton of memes. This was a big deal. Now, the internet does this all the time, but the reason this was a big deal was because mass media in and of itself was picking up this story. It is common nowadays to see the news talk about the next Mario Kart coming on mobile phones, or a new Mario game coming on mobile phones, or any game that's huge, them talking on the news. However, something like this is extremely uncommon. It's not just a movie released to get publicity, it's genuine backlash and confusion from a ton of people. Keep in mind, Sonic used to be one of the biggest, well-known characters of all time, up there with characters like Pikachu and Mickey Mouse. Even further down the line, he was still fairly recognizable, even if a lot of people hadn't kept up with the series. So, with nostalgia and all that, adding on to this, it definitely made it worse. Well, following this, a lot of people online started fixing this design, making the eyes larger, making the fur different colors to make it more Sonic-like. And eventually, the people that made this and the higher-ups at Paramount ended up seeing this and deciding that it was more worth it to make a brand new redesign. This in and of itself has also been criticized, as it's essentially the internet can now control a big company's decisions. However, this is kind of an outlier, and I don't really agree with that concept, even though the internet does rave. But with that, they brought in Tyson Hesse, decided to make this design of movie Sonic, which looks a lot better, scrapped everything, and pretty much redid all of the Sonic stuff. Now, this is bittersweet. We got a better movie out of it, and the fans were very happy. However, the original studio that ended up doing the animations for Sonic ended up having to close down because they went bankrupt from this redesign. So, that's not great. This does also lead to the question of, well, why did they even redesign this in the first place? If they thought it was good enough, even if fans were upset, why did they back down? This is mainly because, from sources that I've heard, the actual artists didn't want to make the design like this, but it was pushed by higher-ups to try to do something different. And, well, this is fine to try to stray away from things in a certain way, but movie Sonic's new design does that a lot better because it really shows the essence of Sonic while also being a different Sonic. You can instantly see this version and tell he's from the movie. Now, the big reason they would want to do this is because they actually want to make a gigantic Sonic cinematic universe, and the first movie is always the most important movie. It's the first impression, it's the kicking stone off of any single thing to make sure that it goes off the ground. If Iron Man was a terrible movie, the MCU would not be around. It doesn't have to be the best movie, it doesn't have to be the most fantastic movie, but it has to be a movie that does well and really keeps it going. This also does lead into the second film, and if that flops, it's completely over. Fortunately, though, for the redesign, this gave a huge amount of publicity, and people that didn't want to see it, like me, as well as casuals, decided to go see it, and at the time, it became the highest grossing video game movie of all time. It's been repped as one of the best movies, and it's only been topped by its sequel. which, let me tell you, is a fantastic movie. Alright, so I know I've talked a ton about this and my opinions, but before we go on to the Plush, I do want to at least give a tiny bit of what my opinions are on the film in and of itself. I do really enjoy the first Sonic movie. I rewatched it recently, and in general, it's a really great movie. But how I describe it is that the first one is more so for the general audiences with Sonic in it. What I mean by this is it's a really great family film. It's really great for Sonic fans, but it's easy for anybody to grasp. You don't need that previous knowledge of who Sonic is, what Sonic is, because they reevaluate his story, they retell it, and they flesh it out a little bit more while also not putting too much Sonic right in front of you. This has been criticized a little bit because, well, it is a Sonic movie. But to appeal to both Sonic fans and the general audience, they had to strike that middle ground and they had to introduce that audience to Sonic himself and his series. So the movie mainly focused on Sonic as well as Tom. In and of itself, I think this is a really good idea. As a Sonic fan, I really appreciated all of the different references, all of the different love and care into it, and the amount of emotions that came out of Tails showing up at the end credits were enormous. The amount of cheering was fantastic, and that cheering may have not been the same if it were those old designs. So I'm so glad that A, they changed them, and B, I got to experience that with a bunch of other fans of this series. It's fantastic to see that. Like I said, it has been criticized for having too much human interaction, though the Sonic series isn't necessarily a stranger to this either, as you do have things like Sonic X and many other things that involve humans. Alright, well that is my rambling about the Sonic redesign, my opinions on it, and now we finally get to look at the Sonic Movie 2, Sonic Build-A-Bear Plush. So starting off, let's go over the quick contrast of this versus the actual original Sonic Build-A-Bear from the games. The first major difference is that movie Sonic is more quilly. There's a lot more texture in it, whereas the regular Sonic is smoother. So that gives one big difference in how the actual fur is done. So Sonic's in the Build-A-Bear is very smooth, whereas this uses a very, very soft felt that to the touch is extremely soft, feels really nice, and is very, very fluffy. It feels fantastic. Going from there, let's go to the head. You have the ears, which the inside of the ear is also very soft, and the way they did this is it actually isn't floppy at all. This is surprisingly a rarity when they do these floppy type of ears, because for this one, they have it more of a structured foam and just in general more structured to stand on its own. Usually when they do the floppy ears, they kind of just bend, but for this, it pops back up. That is a really nice touch, and it gives a lot of really nice quality. So, big thumbs up in my book. The other Build-A-Bear one, I believe it has more stuffed ears. It is up there, but it's a little bit harder to see. Now, another huge difference is the eyes. Now, these eyes are a little bit closer to the older design. Don't riot. I know they're not the same thing, but this is probably for many reasons. First off, so that it fits better on the plush itself, because the plush design is going to look a little bit different than the actual movie design. The eyes themselves are relatively small, and in this picture they are squinting, so it does kind of work, but they could have technically been a bit bigger and it wouldn't have been that big of an issue. Other thing is between the eyes in the movie, there's a little bit of skin fur, like the skin-colored fur, to reference Sonic's Uni-Eye, which, yeah, that's what it's called because he has a little bit of a iris part here, where it's just the whole eye, and it's a little bit weird, but it's Sonic, so we don't question it. So that's not there, but honestly, I think it looks a little bit better here. Movie design-wise, it's really cool that they do have that detail. You also have the nose here, which on the other one, it is a bit puffier. Here, it's more of like a stiffer fabric. On that one, it's more, like I said, it's more puffy, it's more soft. You also have the smirk, which actually looks really phenomenal. You don't get a lot of cocky Sonic types in plush and different merchandise. For figures, sure. For plush, it's usually just a happy smile, usually to the side. This time, though, it's actually in the center because that's not even where his smile usually is. It's kind of either on one side or the other, but it's a pretty big smile. Not too big of a deal. Usually his smirk is a little bit more like happier, whereas this, it has more of a cocky attitude, which is super cool. Going into the eyes, I actually just talked about this on my Roddy Tops video, but if you look at the whites of the eye, the whites are actually a softer fabric, being closer to a regular type of fabric for this type. A little less soft than this, because this has more of the quill texture, whereas this is supposed to be a little bit more solid. If you look at the eyes, the green part is embroidered, the black part is embroidered, and I believe the white part is also embroidered on there. So that looks really, really good. And, of course, just want to mention this, you have his little anger brows, if you will, if you really want to call them that. Alright, so going from there, we have his iconic spines. Spikes, quills, spines, they've been called pretty much everything nowadays, but we're just going to go with spines for simplicity, and that's because I just know them as that. So, looking at this, you have the top part actually kind of looking like the Adventures of Sonic design. Now, I can't remember if it's the Sad AM one or if it's like the Adventures one, but one of those designs have more of like this part, and then this is more of a curved hill. For the movie Sonic, it's more a smooth transition, but they did this so that they had a little bit of extra room for the middle spine, as well as this back spine. Which, funny enough, I'm pretty sure Sonic spines, I don't have a Sonic by me, but I do have a Super Shadow. So looking at this, the general consensus for a lot of these spines is that you have the top spine, you have the two side spines with a middle one, a little bit lower, and then two bottom ones, and that middle one is just one. But for this one, you actually have two spines here, so every row has spines. That's actually pretty interesting, and something that I never really noticed in the movie. Though this could also be a mistake. This in and of itself, though, would be why this is higher, and in and of itself also why this looks a lot shorter, because this could definitely go out a little bit longer, though they probably didn't want it to, like, bump on a wall or something. It makes it a little bit better to put somewhere. These side spines are also shooting more so outward, so that from this angle you can see them a little bit more, though in the movie they're a little bit more back, and you don't really see him from the front profile as much, you more so see him from a slight side, so you usually at least see his quills. Alright, on the back you have his back spines and his tail. For Build-A-Bears, they pretty much come unstuffed, and you have to go in and you have to stuff them. I ordered it online. But because of this, they have a situation where they stitch it together, they stuff it themselves, or you stuff it, and it goes all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. It just poofs out. You know, you have like the legs being thick, you have the arms being thick, where the design really wouldn't make as much sense, but for Build-A-Bear, it makes sense. But because of this, you have certain things like the tail and the back spikes, which actually are not a part of those, and wouldn't have that stuffing going into them because they're separate pieces of fabric. They could have ended up stuffing these themselves, but they could have also left these open, though the flow of the stuffing probably wouldn't have worked as well and it would have been lumpy, so they figured, well, we might as well make it flat so that somebody isn't too upset. So because of that, this and these are actual extra pieces, and something that I would say you'd maybe need to be careful about, but it's not that big of a deal. The back spines also are pretty high up on his back, probably could be a bit lower. Alright, so going from there, we have his arms. So usually Sonic's arms are tan. However, we've got the blue arms for Movie Sonic as well as a few different variants. Boom Sonic has blue arms. And there was a mistake for one of the cartoon Sonics having blue arms as well. I believe in the original Movie Sonic design, I think the arms were blue, but the hands didn't have gloves and they were skin fur. Yeah, it's not great. So fortunately, Tyson Hess was like, no, my design is going to have the gloves, and that looks so much better. Honestly, even as blue hands, I don't think it would have looked right, especially if they put like fingernails or something on it. It just, no. I don't know why. Fingernails just are really weird for cartoon characters, and for some reason shouldn't be done. It's just almost too realistic, and I don't know why. Because, like, obviously this isn't freaky to anybody, but plaster it on Sonic and it's like, oh my god, you've made a nightmare. But yeah, you've got the gloves. Just like the BuildaBear style, these are stuffed. You have the stitched fingers right there, as well as the thumb, and this is a very hard, fairly soft fabric, kind of like with the insides of the eyes. Something else I want to mention, the muzzle as well as this part. I never know what to call this part. If somebody knows, please freaking tell me. Because, like, it's not fur, it's not quills, it's like a chest circle. And I don't know, it's just, it's weird. I don't know what to call it. But these are the same kind of harder fabric, decently soft. Usually like what would be used on a general plush. Now, the muzzle itself is a little bit stiffer just because of how it's positioned, but this is a flatter surface. So it gives a better feel of like what it would be like. Going from there, we have the legs to the feet. Now, one interesting thing is that the original Sonic Build-A-Bear actually had the shoes on itself. Now, if I was smart, I could just grab it to easily compare, though you can actually see the shoes right there, and they're stuffed being the original design where it has the buckle, it has the white strip, the red, all that good stuff. But, of course, Sonic is given these shoes inside of the first movie, and the bottom part is actually just completely white, more like a sock, kind of like you see in both when he takes off his original shoes, but also before he gets his, like, base shoes, essentially. So the shoes themselves are a little bit closer to a soap shoe design while being their own thing. So with the soap shoes, they have the curve for grinding, which these shoes also have. And, of course, on the Build-A-Bear, you can't really do that, so instead they just have the design on a shoe you can put on. These shoes were also really hard to put on because of the stuffing being so heavy that it just... It kind of was like a Cinderella wrong sister type of situation, to be honest. But the design itself, you've got the little bit of vinyl strip on the side for the white. You have this bubbly red felt, kind of like you would see on a basketball short, right there. And then you have the strip here, yellow buckle there, which on him, it's more of like a tag, which kind of looks a little bit cooler. And then you have more of a harder felt on the toe, as well as the back for both the shoes. For the feet as well, you do have the little paws, which works so well for him, because in the movie they do show he's got the little, like, paw tracks. So that's actually cute, and I think on his original shoes he did have that as well. And then you have this, which this is where a button would go. I thought I ordered him with the button, but I didn't. So my apologies on that. And of course, the last thing we need to go over is the ring, which is an accessory for Sonic. This feels a little bit weird. I mean, it looks really, really good, since it is the shiny gold ring that Sonic knows and deserves. In the movies, these are actually used as portals to go from dimension to dimension. In different medias for Sonic, these rings have been used for different things. So it's not that unreasonable to say that his rings could be used for portals. And I think that they got this originally from the first Sonic, where to get into special stages, you actually jumped into gigantic rings. These have also been used as goal rings in stuff like Sonic Adventure 2. Now, of course, rings have also been used for many other things. Sonic's health, they've been used as power rings to give him the ability to spin dash. And I think that's pretty much it, but it's possible I'm forgetting stuff, as there's stuff like chaos rings that exist. But looking at the ring itself, it has more of a vinyl material, being very heavily stuffed and very thick. You can see a little bit of a stitching here to where they ended it, and the stitching inside the middle as well as the outside. So you could technically buy Sonic without the ring and without the shoes, being without the accessories, but I mean, come on, man. Who's gonna get Sonic without the shoes? That's insulting. And that is just rude as heck. But anyway, though, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button. Show us out with everyone love. Brother, mother, sister, father, iguana. And while I could do the regular thing where I talk for 20 seconds, I'm actually gonna put in some bloopers at the end, because I'm a dorp. Anyway, though, thank you all for watching. Keep toes safe. Let me know what you thought about the video and all the stuff in it. And see you guys next time. Speed out. Whoosh. Spins. Spins. Okay. Okay. Oh, that hurt. That hurt. His shoes are hard. Ow. This is gonna be at the end instead of doing the actual thing. I've got to put all these bloopers.